Welcome back. In this email, we're covering the elements of a highly effective email newsletter. Let's start with content. As we covered in the content marketing lesson, repetition is key. It's crucial, however, to be strategic in your repetition. Because more people are likely to see your email than your Instagram post, you can recycle content from social media captions and plop them into email. You can also reshare blog posts and products you've mentioned previously, but be sure to approach them in a fresh way. What else should you promote in your email newsletter? The most straightforward content includes blog post links, classes and events, sales, and case studies or testimonials from happy customers. Once you get into the habit of sending your e-newsletter, try expanding your emails by writing intro letters, sharing excerpts from blog posts, and even more value-added content. The goal is to make your emails more informative than promotional. Now, let's talk about the elements of a highly effective email. First, be strategic about your sender name. If it makes sense, incorporate your personal name into your sender name instead of just using your business name. Why? The average person receives 121 emails a day. Most are from brands, discounts, or newsletters. Using a personal photo and name on your email enhances the feeling that you're talking directly to your customers. People connect with people, not businesses. But this can also add confusion if people don't know who you are, they only know your business name. So I use Meg Brown with I don't know what that's called, a vertical dash, Miss Megabug, but if your business has multiple employees, you could go with Meg from Miss Megabug. Next, write a catchy subject line, something that piques interest and encourages the recipient to open your email. This is called the curiosity gap. It piques interest, and because humans are innately curious, makes us likely to open the email and want to learn more. For example, when promoting my now retired Facebook facelift class, I could have taken the easy way out and written the subject line, "Learn all about Facebook and Facebook facelift." It's informative, but not very interesting. Instead, I would use subject lines such as "Wondering how to get your post seen on Facebook?" In the email, I promoted a link to my blog post, "How to get your post seen on Facebook," and underneath there, I linked to my Facebook facelift class. This class was also linked at the bottom of my blog post. And note how the email was informative first, promotional second. When utilizing the curiosity gap in your subject lines, you'll first want to identify common pain points, which are the problems your audience faces. Refer to a previous lesson, the one on content marketing, for resources on how to discover what your target audience is asking. Then you're going to write your subject line that hints at a solution without giving it away. The solution will be in the email, which incentivizes your subscribers to open your email. Now, a few tips. Use numbers in your subject lines. They tend to perform well because they imply concrete information. However, avoid numbers that end in 0 or 5, like 20% or 15 minutes, for example, because they feel less specific. Many businesses use these numbers in discounts or promotions, so we tend to ignore them. A number like 18 or 33 is more eye-catching. Also, avoid spam trigger words such as free or guarantee, which could send your email to the spam folder. Next, add personalization. Not someone's name, but a job title, interest, or location. For example, if you're hosting a shopping event, instead of "You're invited," try "Girls' Night Out in Littleton." According to campaignmonitor.com, readers are 26% more likely to open emails with personalized subject lines. Make sure you keep your subject line short, about 50 characters or less, including spaces and punctuation. This seems to be the cutoff of what email platforms will show in the inbox. If possible, keep your subject line 3 to 6 words long, as most people only read the first 3. Also, play around with the formatting of your subject lines. Punctuation such as parentheses, brackets, ellipses, and even capital letters, spacing, and emojis can make your email stand out in a cluttered inbox. If you want to create urgency without being pushy, use an ellipsis at the end of your subject line. Also, a little branding tip. If you can find one that relates to your brand, use a consistent emoji in your subject line. This acts as a website favicon for your emails. So when someone is scanning their inbox, they'll be able to easily identify which emails came from you, since the same emoji is included at the beginning of every subject line. Find an emoji that directly relates to your business. This isn't something I do in email subject lines because I haven't found one that works for me. If they had a VW bug emoji, I'd totally use that, but the car options they have are too general. I've seen some email newsletters use a fire emoji or 4-leaf clover. If an emoji relates to a feeling you want your business to convey, that works too. Finally, write a list of several possible subject lines and run them through subjectline.com. This free tool rates your subject line and breaks it down into what's effective and what could be improved. And don't overlook preview text, which appears immediately after the subject line, typically on mobile devices. It allows you to add additional details since most people view email on their phones. It's not something to overlook. Before we move on to the next element of an effective email, let's revisit spam words. Sometimes I do use words like free in my subject line, but I do so sparingly. Years ago, emails containing these words would likely be sent to spam folders, but modern email filters rank more based on your sender reputation and how people interact with your emails, not just the words used in your subject line or email. Sender reputation is now a big deal, and I've included a reel back on the lesson page that shares some of Google and Yahoo's latest requirements, but sender reputation includes your frequency of sending emails, quality of content, and user feedback, as in, do people open your email, reply to it, or mark it as spam? A top tip to maintain an excellent sender reputation is to seek out replies to your emails. Ask your reader questions and respond to them. The next element of an effective email is on-brand design. Going back to Module 4, we learned why it's essential to be consistent with our branding. When designing your email, infuse it with your brand colors, fonts, voice, etc. And be sure to use on-brand photos. Email filters used to ding emails that use too many photos and links because they deemed them spammy in nature. This isn't the case anymore. So don't shy away from adding photos and links, but don't go overboard either. Just leave enough white space in your email to reduce clutter, white space being the background of your email. You want room between your email elements. Also write shorter paragraphs. Basically, you want your emails to be easy to read. Okay, your email may be promoting a few different offers and blog posts, so be sure to link to them. Include snippets and summaries instead of entire page copy. Link to where readers can learn more. Of course, when sending a sales email for a new service or offer, it's okay for them to be lengthier. Also, as we mentioned earlier, it's important for your emails to be informative first, promotional second, but be sure you have some promotional element in there. Mention at least one offer with a link in every email. Finally, schedule your email to send on the off hour. Large companies tend to choose times like 7 a.m. or 3:30 p.m., hour and half hour. Don't compete with them. Send your email at a specific time like 7:07 a.m. or 3:33 p.m. If you send your emails a little after the hour or half hour, they'll appear top of your reader's inbox. That concludes our lesson on e-newsletters. I'll see you in the next lesson where we're covering social media.